Good evening. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professionals, IGP. Greetings from the Institute of Global Professionals, IGP. Thank you all for joining us and staying with us till the end. Honorable knowledge seekers, today I am your host for the evening. My name is Prema Dutta. I am from Bangladesh. Dear knowledge seekers, I am proud to be associated with IGP. IGP is a social and ISO certified international education and training institute. In the last years, we have already served 35 million plus knowledge seekers from 100 plus countries. IGP is internationally recognized and professional as IGP and ISO 9001, 2050, 1000, 2018. It's a training facility for skill development which was founded in 2020 and is generating competent candidates to meet demand in the global labor market by providing professional qualification. The Institute of Global Professionals is an educational institute that provides social work globally recognized and reputable. We serve students and community researchers providing holistic social work and education. We believe that it's not effective to increase one's skills just by acquiring formal education. So we provide effective training and consultation to generate proficient generation all over the world. We distribute our services locally, nationally, and internationally to students, job seekers, job holders, and also for learners through respective campus locations and distance learning platforms. We are an occupational and dependable institution. IGP is one of the famous online institutes from all over the world. Our vision is education is not a business product. It's a part of our human right. Based on our vision, we are trying to reach all corners of the world for free webinars, seminars, courses, awards, quiz competition, monitoring, and counseling, etc. On the other side, we are also trying to offer more than 100 premium services for free, like creating our portfolio website, resume builder, cover letter, motivation letter, and world knowledge platform for gathering general knowledge, which can update all day guides, learning game website, free courses, converter sites, and many more. We help to empower you to learn to meet their expectations and dreams and become highly skilled people. We implement several training programs, webinars, and offline online courses for youth and learners by professional trainers, speakers, and coaches. Our sessions are conducted by globally renowned professionals to develop all kinds of youth and to promote the education of their abilities and personalities. Spreading knowledge is crucial for the Institute of Global Professionals. We believe that knowledge is love and light and vision. So we try to understand the needs of today's generation and we serve them with good research and practice methods. We must have a genuine concern for the learners who represent more diversity, growth, and innovation at it. To lead a session with professionalism, passion, and integrity, IGP members are committed to offering effective best quality service and continual improvement so that individuals who seek information can improve their skill levels and value. Before I move to the next, let me remind don't forget to share, tag, and mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable to us. Thank you. Before I move to the next, let me remind don't forget to share, tag, mention your friend in the comment box. Your support is very valuable to us. Thank you. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we have already completed 1,499 webinars successfully. Wow. Moving to the next, with your continuous support, we have already completed 1,499 webinars successfully. Dear IGP speakers, participants, and visitors, at this moment, this is a very important message for you all. We changed and designed our website www.eduigp.com. On this website, we have surprises for everyone who will be benefited. We already launched our new website where you can find all of our previous activities together with lots of new features. But one strong point is that without an account or login, you can't enjoy our services. So create your account for once with your proper information. Note that with your proper information, you will enjoy your features. With mismatched data, you can't do anything here. From now on, you have to participate in live quiz competitions on our website. Um, from now, you have to participate in live quiz competition on our website. To replace Slido, you have to join directly on our website. Now you can check off all of our previous webinars with verified key certificates. Now it's easier and time oriented because after the session, we will not provide you with any code for certification. You have to take part in one exam. After that, if you pass, you will receive a certificate, otherwise not. But you can take part in one exam unlimited till you pass. If you are an IGP speaker, you can download your previous certificates, speakership certificate. If you are a host of IGP, you can download your certificate of graduate. Um, if you are an online quiz competition winner, you can download a certificate of participation. If you are selected for lifetime membership, then you can download a certificate of lifetime membership easily. Besides this, if you participate in any award function which organizes common support with IGP, you can download that also. You can instantly prepare and download 80 types of instant certificates from our website within a minute. Certificate of global professional membership, certificate of global influencer during the pandemic, certificate of active knowledge seeker, certificate of social activities during the pandemic, certificate of achievement, IGP knowledge seeking campaign 2020, certificate of achievement IGP knowledge seeking campaign 2021, certificate of achievement IGP knowledge seeking campaign 2022, certificate of participation webinar series 1 authentic assessment in teaching learning, certificate of participation webinar series 2 teaching English as a foreign language and assessment, certificate of participation webinar series 3 digital classroom engagement tools, certificate of participation webinar series 4 the new trends in education, certificate of participation webinar series 6 trends and innovation in mathematics, certificate of participation webinar series 7 research and comprehensive activities, certificate of participation webinar series 8 art in teaching special program in the art, certificate of participation webinar series 9 21st century tools in teaching mathematics, certificate of IGP corporate ambassador, certificate of IGP campus ambassador, which you can prepare and download within a minute. From now on, you can participate in 1000 plus international level quizzes with verified e-certificates. Teaching tips for teachers, health tips for parents, health tips for teenage, gamification tools for teachers. You can join IGP Alumni. You can check out our 50 plus premium services website for free and many more. Dear IGP listeners, we promised previously, but lack of technical issues, we are late sending you on time. This is a great opportunity to collect your previous credentials. We solve all issues from our website. Now you can enroll, reset password, everything. You can check your dashboard for our webinar details. It's a cordial request to you. Check all buttons and pages on our website. Surely I can say will be benefited. Thank you. But note that without an account or login, you can't enjoy our services. At present, we are going to start our 1503. The program name is to get few environmental scanning techniques for planning, and our today's speaker is Rhoda Galanguso. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, hello. So I'm going to share. Okay, good evening or whatever time it is in the place where you are watching.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to talk about environmental scanning techniques.
Ma'am, please check your volume because I can't hear you properly.
Is it okay? Am I audible now?
Ma'am, your presentation not a full screen, please. Full screen. Otherwise, our audience not understand your topic.
Is it okay now? Ma'am, is it okay now? Hello, is it okay now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I'll talk about environmental scanning techniques.
Ma'am, I can't hear you properly. Please check your volume. Ma'am, everything is all right.
So is my audio okay? Is my audio okay? You can hear me now. Okay, so I'll talk about environmental scanning techniques.
Ma'am, please check your volume.
My volume is okay. I can hear you. It's very loud actually. It's very loud. Can you hear me now?
Ma'am, everything is all right. Hello, ma'am.
Yes, that's it. Shall I
Yes,
proceed?
yes.
Yes. Okay, good evening or whatever time it is in the place where you are
Um,
watching. So
okay, ma'am.
I'm going to talk about environmental scanning techniques in the context of educational planning. Although these environmental scanning techniques could actually be applied in any field, particularly in the field of business. So
Um,
environmental,
okay,
yes,
ma'am. Some description about yourself, please.
ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Everything is all right. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me? Ma'am, I can't hear you. Ma'am, I can't hear you. Please fix your volume.
It's already 100%.
Yeah. Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, I can't. Can you hear me, ma'am? But I can't hear you. Your side is mute. You have you. Question anta. Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me? Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me? But I can't hear you. Please check your volume. Uh, I can't hear you, ma'am. স্যার কি করব, উনি কিছুই বলতেছেন, আমি কিছুই বুঝতেছি না ওনার কথা। হ্যাঁ, বলতেছে আমি শুনতেছি না কিছু, ওনার ওখানে সমস্যা করতেছে, বাট উনি আমাকে বলতেছে কি ওনার ভলিউম একদম 100% আছে। তখন আমি কি করবো? আমি কি কুইজ স্টার্ট করে দিব? Ma'am, can you hear me? But I can't hear you because your side is mute. Oh shit.
My volume is 100% already.
বুঝি না। Ma'am, I think you connect three devices, am I right? Ma'am, I think you connect three devices. Which device divided in three ways? Hello, ma'am. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. What about you? Can you hear me?
you can start your presentation. Ma'am, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. But what about me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Now it's perfect.
So are you good?
Yes.
Okay, so
Ma'am, some descriptions about yourself for our audience.
are we good now? Okay, so I'm going to talk about environmental scanning, and this is mostly in the context of education. And if there are educational leaders who are in the group, I believe this would benefit you in making your plans and coming up with decisions. So, environmental scanning is the process of gathering information about events and the relationships within an organization's internal and external environments. The basic purpose of environmental scanning is to help management determine the future directions of the organization. Environmental scanning refers to the collection and utilization of information regarding events, relationships, and trends in an organization's industry, and the use of the acquired knowledge in shaping the organization's future strategies and objectives. Environmental scanning requires people in an organization to search for opportunities, important lessons, trends, and weaknesses or threats outside their industry, which can affect the success of what they do. Identifying these variables would enable the organization to develop strategies to either exploit or counter the effects of these external industry forces. So, why is scanning the environment important? One is in order for the organization uh, to have the first move. Knowing the external environment would give us the competitive advantage of being the first to launch a program or a project. A school would be considered as an initiator of change if it creates solutions to problems that are plaguing the education sector. Another importance is for strategy formulation. First, strategy formulation is the process of using available knowledge to document the intended direction of and the actionable steps to reach the goals of the organization. Scanning the environment gives us the necessary knowledge or information to prioritize and align our programs and projects to our objectives and our goals, to develop doing an environmental scanning will also enable us to do competitive analysis. We get to know the situations outside the education sector that impact the operation of our schools. Studying the conditions of the economy, for instance, would give us insights on costs of materials, thus giving us the necessary information where we should cut costs or cost cut in our operations. Or the data would also give us information as to the projected enrollment of students so that the necessary infrastructures would be prepared beforehand. Also for strategic control. Strategic control is concerned with tracking the strategy. We referred here to the first move strategy and the strategy formulation. So we track the strategy as it is being implemented. Therefore, we are able to detect problems or changes in the premises and make necessary adjustments. Knowing the strengths and weaknesses of the internal environment and the strengths and opportunities or the threats and opportunities available in the external environment, we would be able to adjust our strategies in implementing the plans. The adjustments may be in the areas of targets, monitoring, and evaluation. Then, also, organizational adaptation could be made possible. Organizational adaptation is a concept that describes both the congruence within organizations with respect to the strategies and structures deployed, and across organizations with respect to the degrees to which organizations meet the expectations of their environments. Organizations that most successfully adapt over time come to be larger, less dense, with fewer isolated agents, and fewer overlooked decision factors. And then lastly, doing environmental scanning would lead to sustainability and stability. Stability is the ability to adapt to unexpected changes, while sustainability deals more with ensuring continuity. That data from the environment warns us about factors that could threaten the stability and sustainability of our organizations, like a good faculty profile in the areas of educational attainment, research, linkages, and professional development is a strength that we can capitalize on during accreditation or school evaluation. The presence of organizations that continue giving professional development activities to teachers would give us an assurance that the professional development profile of the teachers will not deteriorate, and therefore there would be sustainability. So, what are the commonly used environmental scanning techniques? There are many, but I am going to focus only on those which are mostly used before we do our strategic planning in education. So, one, we have the PEST analysis, which stands for political, economic, social, technological. A PEST analysis was originally developed in 1967 by a Harvard professor by the name of Francis Aguilar. PEST analysis is a strategic planning tool that helps organizations identify and evaluate threats and opportunities for what they do. It is particularly useful for understanding the overall external environment. The more threats or risk factors outside, the more difficult it is to interact with the external environment. By analyzing the external forces at play, the more strategic we can be in our planning and decision making. In the area of the political aspect, there are questions that we could ask, like what government policies or political groups could be beneficial or detrimental to our success? Are there new legislations? Are there social groups, social movements that could support us in our advocacy or support us in the attainment of our objectives and our goals? Also, is the political environment stable or is it likely to change, particularly when it is nearing election time? And we know that the political environment is quite unstable. Um, we are familiar with the we are familiar with the situation, of course, because there would be many politicians who will be trying to get the sympathy of voters, and naturally, we are one of the voters. In the economic aspect, we ask the questions like what is the effect of the performance of the economy to our business or the performance of the economy to the education sector. Like for example, if there is inflation and there's economic struggle among families, most likely those who are in the private education sector would be losing enrollees or losing their students to the public sector because in the public sector, the tuition fee is free or they are going to spend minimal amount compared to studying in the private schools. We also ask the question, how are our pricing or our tuition fees, our revenues and costs impacted by economic factors? If we are in the private sector, we have to deal with inflation rates. We have to deal with high cost of materials, and we also have to deal with the clamor of teachers for increase in their salary. And we have to address this. But the question is, if the economy is not good, how could we be increasing the tuition fee so that we could also increase the salary of the social condition is also one thing that we have to analyze, and we ask questions like what are the effects of our customers' beliefs and values in their buying decisions? Translated in education, what are the effects of the beliefs of the families, their values of the families in their decision to enroll? Themselves, how do they look at the private schools? How do they look at the public schools? And what values do they have of education in general? Would they be wanting to enroll in the private schools or in the public schools? And if they're going to enroll in the private schools, how willing are they to pay for the tuition fees and for the other materials that are needed for the education? We also ask the question, what are the roles of cultural trends on human behavior in our business or in our organization? So we are talking here generally of the culture of the people. And then lastly, the technological aspect, like we ask the questions, what technological advancements and innovations are available and that we can use in our organization? And how will these technologies impact our operation? Like, for instance, the use of online platforms in learning. Even with so many online platforms, free online platforms available virtually, if the internet connection in our area is not good, we would not be able to take advantage of these innovations. Or if there are no gadgets, environmental scanning technique that we can make use of, the test analysis, where we focus on the political, the economic, the social, and technological dimensions of society. Another one, we have the ETOP. ETOP um, stands for Environmental Threat and Opportunity Profile. So, ETOP analysis, this is the process by which organizations monitor environment to identify opportunities and threats that affect their operation for the purpose of taking strategic decisions. So, I would like to emphasize that the external environment we are going to look at here is that which is relevant to the operation of our organization. Okay, so for example, outside the environment, we look at the physical, looking, doing an ETOP analysis, analyzing the external environment. So the physical environment of the school is that it is prone to landslide and erosion. So what is the nature of the impact? It is negative. It is going to pull down the operation of the school. What is the impact of this physical environment to the school? There will be decline in enrollment, there will be tardiness, and it's going to endanger the safety of the students and the faculty and all of the stakeholders. We look at the sociocultural aspect. Let's say there's tribal conflict in the external environment. So that's going to negatively impact again the operation of the school, resulting to probably decline in enrollment, a high dropout rate, and eventually it's going to result to learning losses. If let's say we take a look also at the political environment, the different ordinances, well, these ordinances may be helpful in uplifting the operation of the school. Probably they could be beneficial in helping us look for funding, and these ordinances may also give us an assurance of safety. And then lastly, the cultural environment pertaining, let's say, to traditions and practices of the community. It could have a balancing impact or a neutral impact on the operation of the school. We could even make use of these cultures and traditions as examples in our lessons, and therefore we enrich the curriculum. Okay, so that's an example of EPOC analysis. Next, we have the force field analysis. A force field analysis is a basic tool for root cause analysis that can help us take action once the root cause has been identified. So this technique is based on the assumption that any situation is the result of forces for and against the current state being in equilibrium. Countering the opposing forces or increasing the favorable forces will help induce a change by reinforcing positives and eliminating or reducing the negatives. So force field analysis is actually a technique to identifying the root cause of an issue or the root cause of a problem. So here is an example. Let's say the problem is student enrollment. There is a declining enrollment of students over the years. So there might be some factors in the environment that we need to look at, like for example, the motivation of the students. What motivates the students nowadays to go to school? Do they have the necessary motivation to go to school? Or their motivation is purely intrinsic? Extrinsic. There is really no intrinsic motivation for them to go to school and finish their education. They are just probably going to school because they are made to go to school by their parents. Another one may also be the prestige of the school as another root cause of declining student enrollment. Probably the school does not have a good image in the community, maybe because of the performance of the students and the performance of the teachers. The school is not well known in the community. It is not a school that the families would like to send their children to. Internally, we might also have to look at school policies. Maybe the school policies are not friendly to the students and to the families. Maybe the school policies are too restrictive that the students could not really exercise their creativity or enjoy their freedom. And there might also be some budgetary constraints. Probably the school has very limited budget in order to improve its infrastructures and facilities. So that there are even in the physical appearance of the school, there are no improvement, and aesthetically, it is not at all appealing to the eyes of the students and their families. So looking at the both the internal and the internal, that's the school policies and the budgetary complaints, and the constraints, sorry, and the external environment, like the prestige of the school and the motivation of the students. Well, all of this might be contributory to the decline in the student enrollment. So these are the forces that impact the enrollment of the students. By doing force field analysis, we are able to present the negative and the positives of a situation so that they are easily comparable because we are considering all aspects that could possibly contribute to the changes. And by doing force field analysis, we are also encouraged to do an honest reflection on the underlying roots of a problem and its solutions. So we can look inside our operations and we can also look at our external environment. So we have here some organizational forces to be considered when doing environmental scanning, particularly when doing force field analysis. So we look at social or organizational trends, we look at the attitude of people. How do they view education this time? What is their attitude towards online learning, making use of online platforms? What is their attitude towards on-site learning? What about the regulations and the rules of the oversight agencies and of the school itself and also of the local government? What about the personal or the interest of the group in the economic side, the cost and the prices inside the organization, the policies? Also, the time required for the students to finish their education. What are the potential risks and what are the consequences of failures? So, by considering this, we would be reflecting on the likelihood of the success of the organization. So let's say we ask this question: is our organization responsive to service quality and needs of our customers? In the context of education, our question would be: is our school responsive to the quality of education that is desired by our stakeholders, particularly the students and their families, and the needs of the students? So we look at factors in the inside and the outside that is impacting this quality of service that we give, like the need for a functional and responsive organizational structure, and the qualifications of people, the size of the organization, and the trust of the owners. The most common tool for environmental scanning is SWOT analysis. It's the most common because even in the business organizations, before they do strategic planning, they first do SWOT analysis. And SWOT analysis can actually be done regularly or periodically as the need arises. If we think that there are new threats or new opportunities, and if we think that we are not meeting our goals and our targets, it is best to do SWOT analysis regularly. So this is a framework that organizations use to analyze both the internal and external factors. The internal factors pertain to the strengths and the weaknesses. And then also those in the outside, referring to the opportunities and the threats, that could have a great impact or effect on the viability of a project, a product, or a place. But there are limitations of doing SWOT analysis. Like, for example, um, if we do not have sufficient data to conduct, we do not have the sufficient data to analyze our organization, our internal environment, and even sufficient data from the external environment, we would be missing very valuable and very relevant information, and we would not be able to factor this in our strategic plan. We could easily overlook or misunderstand some phenomena in the external environment or even information from the internal environment. Another limitation is that the input for each element, referring to the SWOT, the strength, The weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats can often be empirical or subjective and thus give us a skewed perspective. So, meaning to say, because we choose the data that we would like to use, and sometimes looking at when we are assessing the strengths of our organization, we tend to overemphasize the strength and hide the weaknesses. But we have to remember that it is in the weaknesses where we can also derive our strength. And the strength can actually be potential weaknesses. So it is good to balance both, meaning not give too much focus on the strength and less on the weaknesses, or too much focus on the weaknesses and less on the strength. Because if we do that, we are not going to be objective in looking at things. We will not be objective in assessing our internal environment. It is the same case if we are going to do an assessment of the external environment. If we are going to focus more on the opportunities and overlook the threats, or vice versa, we would not be able to factor very relevant information in our plans. And lastly, the insights that we can derive from doing SWOT analysis can have a limited shelf life. Why? Because our assessment is based on current status. It is based on the present. So we do not know what's going to happen tomorrow, or in the following week, or in the following month. And the future is not factored in our plans. That's why the there is a need to do a regular or a periodic SWOT analysis, because the information that we utilized at the time that we conducted the SWOT analysis is limited only to the future state of things. But there are also uh, reasons why we have to do SWOT analysis despite the limitations. We would like to create an analysis that summarizes the internal and external factors, because it's going to give us a clearer idea of how things are. That this is the kind of system that we have. Is it meeting the demands of the outside? Or let's say there are too many threats in the outside. How are we responding to these threats? Do we have sufficient strengths, weapons to deal with with the threats outside? We would also be able to identify risks and issues that need solving, particularly in the internal environment. If you're going to look at our weaknesses, then we would be able to have a clear goal of what we are going to include in our plans. We need to include these weaknesses because these are the things that's going to endanger the operation of our organization. These are our strengths. We need to sustain them. We need to ensure that we are not going to regress. Say, for example, the strength of our school is the faculty. Therefore, things should be done in order to retain the faculty, because if they are going to move out of the school, then it is going to endanger the operation of the school. Doing SWOT analysis will also help management establish their priorities. As mentioned previously, by looking at the weaknesses of the organization, leaders will know what issues, what concerns, what problems to prioritize. And therefore, there would be a better allocation of resources, and probably would be able to um, save on the budget. We also do SWOT analysis to perform realistic forecasts based on conditions and evaluate the potential for growth. Although, as mentioned previously, since the shelf life of the data for SWOT analysis is very limited, the forecast would also be very limited. We cannot make use of our data this time, this day, for example, to make a forecast for the same time next year. And then lastly, evaluate what kind of help is needed from the outside. Do we need legal help? Do we need to labor for Congress to come up with legislations that's going to help address our problems in the schools? Do we need ordinances from the local government in order to help ensure the safety and the security of the students and the teachers in the school? Do we need technological innovations or whatsoever? Right? So these are the reasons why we need to do SWOT analysis before we are going to embark on planning. Now, what are the benefits of doing SWOT analysis? We can turn the weaknesses into strengths. Like we noticed that in terms of professional development activities, the faculty members have an average of one seminar or training attended every after 3 months. So that is a weakness because it shows that the teachers are not growing professionally, they are not being updated in their craft, in their profession. Now we can turn that weakness into a strength by conducting internally in-service training activities. So it will now be the school that's going to sponsor professional development activities which these teachers can avail of so that their profile will eventually turn into a strength. We would also be able to minimize losses. If we look at the external environment and there are so many threats, then probably we should not respond to those threats so that we would be able to minimize our losses and understand better the nature of the external environment. Our external environment in the education sector is the entire society. Our external environment is not only the schools. The external environment is also the hospital, like is also the church, uh, the market, the entertainment industry. And we are all interconnected with each other. So, for example, if we know the health conditions of in society, we know the prevailing diseases or illnesses in society, we would be able to come up with measures in the school in order to keep the students and the teachers healthy. So how do we do SWOT analysis? First, we look at the internal environment. And we have to remember that the internal environment is our organization. It is not the outside. It's our own organization. So we look at our human resources, the physical, the financial resources. We also look at our policies, our procedures, our processes, our guidelines, our vision, mission, and objectives, and our organizational structure, because this may be the strength or this may also be the weaknesses. So, to determine our strength, we ask the question, what is it that we do well? What are we good at doing? What makes us stand out? What's our best practice? What makes us unique? In all of these ones, we might find the answer. Maybe it is our organizational structure that makes us stand out. Maybe it is our policies. Maybe it is the utilization of our resources. Maybe it's our human resources. So if you're going to do an analysis of this and answer these ones, then we will be able to identify where among these aspects of the internal environment are we doing well. On the other hand, we also ask the questions to identify our weaknesses. What works against our operations? And what is hampering us from doing our work? Could it be the policies? Could it be financial resources because of insufficient budgets? Could it be physical resources because of insufficient or inadequate facilities and equipment? Or could it be the people themselves? Maybe our attitude, maybe our leaders. They may be our weaknesses. They are the ones who are hampering us from doing our work. Maybe it is the organizational structure. Probably it is too bureaucratic. We do not know who to report to. We do not know who to consult, who is our boss. And that's why it hampers us from doing our work well. Now, we take a look also at the external environment. This is now the society where we are in. And we consider the following aspects: the political or the legal, the economic, the sociocultural, technological, environmental competitions, and the different regulating bodies. And we ask the question: what factors can undermine our operation and what are the obstacles to our success? By answering this from these ones, we would be able to identify our threats. Is it legal mandates that undermine our operation? Is it the culture of the people in our society that serves as our obstacle to success? Is it technological innovations that undermines or limits our opportunities for success? But from this, we could also derive opportunities. What factors can enable us to succeed? Maybe there is a law that is very friendly to our operation. Maybe in the local government unit, there are ordinances that support our operation. What trends favor our actions? The technological advancements in education, the different online platforms. There are so many softwares and open access educational resources that can um, help us to attain our objectives. So they would favor our actions. So these ones could be threats and they could also be opportunities. So I'll show you an example. Okay. So in the context of the Philippine education system, higher education system, let's say what I have identified as a concern or a problem is this: the weak internal and external audit system to ensure continuous quality improvement. So in the internal environment of the institution, I will look at its strengths and its weaknesses, and in the external environment, I'm going to look at threats and opportunities. So let's say for this particular school, let's say University A, it has a weak internal and external audit, and therefore, continuous quality improvement is not assured. However, assessing the internal environment, I have identified some strengths like that institution is a center of excellence in its criminology program, and it is a center of development in teacher education. It also has several accredited programs, and there is also a quality assurance office in place. The weaknesses, however, include the non-outcome based orientation of the performance evaluation of the employees. There is also the absence of an institutional self-assessment survey tool. It has not been doing impact assessments, and it has a negative attitude towards accreditation. So these are the weaknesses that could also undermine the strengths of the environment, internal environment. Now, for the external environment, there are many threats, like, for example, a neighboring university has a center of excellence in different um, programs more than the COE and COD of the school itself. Also, its neighboring school, University A, is also ISO certified. Another neighboring school, University B, it has several institutional awards or programs that are accredited by accrediting bodies and COE and COT programs. So this is definitely going to put at a disadvantage this university. Opportunities outside the Commission on Higher Education, Institutional Sustainability Assessment, accreditation, ISO certification, the standards of this could be utilized by the school as an opportunity to improving itself so that it could have a continuous quality improvement framework. Also, the CHED memorandum orders on program evaluation and occupational health and safety standards, etc. This could be opportunities for the university or for the school to improve its operation by looking at the tools of these agencies and looking at the programs of University A and University B. This university would be able to strengthen its internal and external audit. In short, these ones, University A, University B, ISO, ISA, OSHA, CMOs, this could be basis for the benchmarking of this school in order for it to come up with its continuous quality improvement framework. So what are the challenges now that the school is facing? Based on the threats and the opportunities, it could institutionalize a self-assessment survey because it does not have one. Notice in the weaknesses, there's an absence of institutional self-assessment. So it can have its own institutional self-assessment activity by looking at the tools that are utilized by these agencies. That's why it's an opportunity. Okay. And then another challenge is for this school to subject itself to external assessing bodies aside from the Commission on Higher Education and the accrediting body that is overseeing it. Okay, so by by identifying this SWOT, the strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities, the institution will now have a clearer goal of what challenges it is going to address. So it can come up with an institutionalized self-assessment activity, and it can also subject itself for external accreditation to external assessing bodies. So it will start from this identified challenges, the institution will now come up with its strategies by which it would be able to fulfill these challenges. Okay, so to sum up, internal and external factors are scanned by the educational leaders to achieve their objectives, and most importantly, to attain the objectives of the institution. So if leaders are going to utilize tools for environmental scanning, then there is a high likelihood that they will be able to attain the objectives of the institution. Environmental scanning assists education managers and leaders to define and determine educational trends, events, issues, strengths, and opportunities for them to act proactively. By doing so, there is a clear focus on where the organization is going. Okay, so thank you.
Um, Thank you so much, ma'am, for your rich content presentation on our. Shit. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your rich content presentation, which can impact our knowledge seeker. Surely, after your presentation, I hope our knowledge seeker can learn something new, which was our only intention. Learn and grow together, IGP knowledge seekers. Once again, thank you so much, dear ma'am, for your presentation. Now, ma'am, it's time for our question and answer session, which is the one more valuable part of our regular webinar. Honorable ma'am, please stay with us. After short video, we'll be back in our session part 2, which is the question and answer part. Dear RGP knowledge seekers, please ask your questions in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Thank you. After question and answer, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear RGP knowledge seekers, please ask your questions in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. After question and answer, we have webinar certification and online quiz competition. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your questions in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Questions in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, please ask your questions in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Dear IGP knowledge seekers, we are still waiting for your questions. Please ask your questions in the comment box as much as you want to know from our speaker. Hello, ma'am. Are you here? Are you there?
Hello.
Uh,
I think there are no
yes, ma'am.
questions.
I think there is no question. I think we are covered all of our topics and topics. I think there is no question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Um, Once again, thank you so much, Honorable Ma'am, for your time in IGP. We have learned a lot from you with new topics. It will add some value to our day-to-day activity along with our academic and professional growth. Honorable Ma'am, hope to see you again with a new topic and new date. Thank you, ma'am. Take care. Dear IGP Knowledge Seekers, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we'll start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. IGP Knowledge Seekers, it's time for the webinar certification process, the most attractive and powerful part of our regular webinar. After a short video, we'll start our webinar certification. After webinar certification, we have an online quiz competition and quiz certification. Certificate instructions. Visit www.eduigp.com. Please make sure presence on our website. Find a running session. Find a running session and get enrolled. After watching or completing part 1 video session, click mark as complete. Moving to the next, which is the learning test quiz, passing mark 80%. If passed, back to the course again to download your certificate. If failed to retake the quiz, download your certificate in PDF or JPG. For your attention, I am going to share the procedure again. Certificate instructions. Visit www.eduigp.com. Please make sure your presence on our website. Sign up or sign in. Find a running session and get enrolled. After watching or completing part 1 video session, click mark as complete. Move to the next, which is the learning test quiz, passing mark 80%. If passed, back to the course again to download your certificate. If failed, to retake the course. Download your certificate in PDF or JPG. Dear RGB Knowledge Seekers, it's time for the most engaging part of this webinar, which is an online quiz competition, which is a regular webinar activity. We change a few processes for online live quiz competition. Note that after live, no one can participate. Participation process. Now time for the online quiz competition. Instructions carefully. Now time for the online quiz competition. To join the online quiz competition properly, please follow instructions carefully. Visit www.eduigp.com and sign up for the online quiz competition. sign up or sign in without this, you can join live quiz competitions anymore. Browse the live quiz and join with your log website or user account. Click join and wait for a few minutes for others to join. Enjoy an online live quiz competition. After the quiz, we will issue certificates for the top 10 as previously, which you can find on our website and official Facebook page. After a short video, we will start our quiz session. Dear Rajupin knowledge seekers, we are now start our quiz session. Already 25 people join with us. We are now start our quiz session. First question is, which of the following scanning techniques is the most accurate for ruling out placenta previa, a transdominal with a full bladder, B transvaginal? Correct answer is B on the leaderboard. First person name is Jimalin V. Rivera. Next question is, during the strategic planning process, environmental scaling worksheets are used for A. Providing employees with job performance data, B. Gathering information about economic trends. Correct answer is B on the leaderboard. First person name is Jimalin V. Rivera. Next question is, environmental scanning cannot help companies develop contingency plans for a particularly volatile environment. A. True, B. False. Correct answer is A. On the leaderboard, first person name is Urus Nasir. Next question is, scanning techniques include looking for specific words, phrases, names, dates, or places. A. True, B. False. Correct answer is true. On the leaderboard, first person name is Evelyn P. Vapari. Next question is, which one is not various techniques of environmental scanning? A. Triple B. CSR. Correct answer is CSR. On the leaderboard, first person name is Laika May T. Aronico. Next question is scanning techniques for low flow states are a decreased sensitivity of persistence, B decreased PRF, and wall filter. Correct answer is B. On the leaderboard, first person name is Jimmy G. Benelida. Next question is what are not the various techniques models of environmental scanning? A. SWOT, B. QUST. Correct answer is B. On the leaderboard, first person name is Kyungwi Sahi Gitwekar. Next question is which scanning techniques from static images? B. MRI, B. fMRI. Correct answer is A. On the leaderboard, first person name is Kyungwi Sahi Gitwekar. Next question is strength scanning techniques are useful for investigating functions of the phenotype, B. Investigation the function of the brain. Correct answer is B. On the leaderboard, first person name is Kyungwi Sahi Gitwekar. Next question is environmental scanning is basically forecasting a false be true. Correct answer is true. On the leaderboard, first person name is Kyungwi Sahi Gitwekar. Our quiz session is finished now. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition. We are top 10 congratulations second. We will take a few minutes to finalize the result and after that we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our website and official Facebook page. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition as top 10 congratulations second. We will take a few minutes to finalize the result and after that we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our website and official Facebook page. Congratulations to our webinar online quiz competition as top 10 congratulations second. We will take a few minutes to finalize the result and after that, we will issue our online quiz competition certificates on our website and official Facebook page. At the end of our session, we can say probably video skill never stop learning because life never stop teaching us. Be happy and stay safe. See you again and again. We want to participate in a program. If you want to live a happy life, try to a goal, not to people or things. Albert Einstein. Before I say or hit the end like button, I again want to thank all IGP knowledge seekers for your active participation as always. See you in the next session. Thank you.